In the previous step, we learned how to add error handling. In this step, let's learn how to internationalize our web application. Internationalizing web application means when users want to see the application in different languages, the entire application needs to be customized for their specific language. In this specific step, we will try and customize a couple of parts of the application, and I would leave it to you as an exercise to customize the rest of the application so that it's internationalized. So let's start with the basics of internationalization. What we would do in Spring typically is we would have a couple of property files. So you would have a property file where you have all the messages that you would want to show in English. You would have another property file where you'd store all the messages that you'd want to show to a French user, and so on and so forth. And there are multiple ways where we can do internationalization. The way we would do that in this particular step is by using something called session. So we would store the locale, the language which the specific user has chosen in his session. And we would have a default locale, and we would give the user the chance to change to a different locale for that particular session. If this sounds complicated, actually it's very, very simple. First thing we need to do before we would want to use internationalization is to configure the message sources. So basically we need to define where our messages are, where our text messages are. So that's one. The second thing we would be using is a locale resolver. We would be using a session locale resolver, as we said earlier. So we would be using a session locale resolver with a default locale English. So we are setting the default locale to English. And then we are using an interceptor. Interceptor is just like we have filters in web.xml, we have interceptors which can intercept requests, and we are creating a locale change interceptor with a parameter language. Let's quickly configure this and see how the whole thing works. So let's go ahead and put these things in Spring context. So I'm opening up to-do-servlet.xml, and I'm copying this particular piece of code down here, just below the MVC resources. So what we have is a message source. So we are saying a message source. Where is it reading it from? Class path messages. So now we need to create the messages files. So I'll go ahead and say right click, file. I want to call this messages. The default locale we are setting is English. So messages underscore en dot properties. What I'll also do is create messages underscore French dot properties so that we can see our application in French as well. We have the application in French and we have the application in English. Not really. We have a couple of property files which can accept properties in English, and also we can accept messages in English and French. So that's what we are picking up in here, message source. And the locale resolver, we are using a session locale resolver, and the parameter we are seeing is language. In the list to-dos.jsp, we have a caption in here. Your to-dos are something. So what we want to do is we want to internationalize this. So if somebody is coming in French, we would want to show the message in French, and somebody is coming from an English speaking country or English speaking locale, we would want to show him this in English. I would want to use a tag from Spring. So what I'll do is I'll go to the header.jspf and quickly add that tag in. So I'll copy this. Actually the tag which I would want is in this particular tags thing, and I'll give it a name, Spring. So now this is ready. So I can go ahead and use that particular tag in here in the caption. So I can type in Spring : message, and one of the things that I would need to pass into this is code. So what message do I want to display? I want to show to-do.caption in here. What I'll do is I'll go and put to-do.caption in the English properties. So English properties, your to-dos are in English. I'm just putting something in the language so that it shows up. So now in the French one, I'm saying your to-dos are in French. Actually, what we should have put in here is the translation in French, but just to keep it really simple, I'm saying your to-dos in French, and I'm saying in the English properties, your to-dos in English. Let's keep it very simple. What I'll do is I'll need to restart the server for picking up the changes. Let's log in now. I'll go to the manage your to-dos. By default, it's coming up in English because that's how I've configured the application to come up. But when somebody from if somebody who wants a French login comes in, we would actually need to pass in a parameter language is equal to fr. So this is what we would do. We would redirect a French user to this URL. So http localhost 8080 language is equal to fr. And now he would be redirected to the user ID password in 28 minutes dummy. You are now in the welcome page. Now if we only configured the to do page, so now you see this is in French. So let's go ahead and add in a little bit more on the welcome page as well. All that I need to do to internationalize the page is now go to the page. So I would want to go to the welcome page. So I'm opening up the welcome page, and I would say here, instead of welcome, I would say welcome.caption. And now I can open up the property files, star messages. Both the property files, we need to add the new property for this welcome.caption. In English, welcome in English. In the French one, welcome in French. So let's wait for the context to pick it up. Okay, now that's ready. So I can go ahead and now go to the home. We are already in the French context. So you can see that the welcome in French in 28 minutes. If you go to the to-do, you'd see your to-dos in French. So basically what's happening in here is based on the login URL, based on whatever language that we are passing in the login URL, the entire application behaves differently. So for a French guy, you'd see everything in French. You can go ahead and add in more Spring messages wherever you'd want. You can even replace description, target date, and is completed by Spring messages. And then you have the complete application internationalized. All that you need to do is whenever let's say I need a Spanish thing, just need to copy this and translate it into Spanish and have it in here, and just give a kind of a different URL for the Spanish guys. Just say !language is equal to SP, or whatever the locale for Spanish is. So now I log out and I come in with the default URL, then you'd see that the application would be in English. So welcome in English, manage your to-dos in English. However, the user was coming through a different URL. Let's say !language is equal to fr, which is the French language. Somehow Firefox is weird, it's taking me somewhere else. So type in http://localhost:8080 language is equal to fr, and now you would see welcome. So that's basically how internationalization work. We use a session to identify a user, and that's why once user has logged in, we are seeing that everything is in his specific language. We could have also used cookies. There is also something called a cookie local resolver, which would be resolving based on the cookies which are on your browser. In this step, we looked at internationalization. What we want to do is, based on the locale of the user, we wanted to switch to a different language to use in the particular application. We used a message bundle. We created a couple of properties, messages_en and messages_fr, and we used the locale resolver, which was the session locale resolver, to resolve the locale for us. And then we started using something called Spring Message. Wherever we wanted to internationalize, we started putting it in Spring Message, and we would put the specific message in the resource bundles. In the next step, we would be moving towards one of the fun parts. Of late, we are moving a lot towards the web services, specifically REST web services. And in the next couple of steps, we'll be trying to get a little basics on Spring REST services.